Hey there, Derek Rydall here, founder of the Law of Emergence and author of the best-selling books Emergence and the Abundance Project. I just want to talk to you tonight about why you need to stop living in everyone else's world. And to help you understand that you don't really live in the world out there, but the world that you live in is in here, that it's within you, that we're not really in the world is in us. And so much, especially now with how many memes and thought viruses and emotional contagion that's going around, there is so much temptation and so much inertia and momentum to pull us into everyone else's world and to pull us into a world that is not of our creation. And I really want you to understand that the only place that you really live is inside of you. And I want to say hello to everybody. I see you there. It's great to see you all. And I really want you to understand that the world you actually live in, although it may not be obvious at first, is inside of you, is in your consciousness, your mind. That your mind is peopled with your life is peopled with the personifications of your own psyche. That the conditions and the creations and the experiences in your life really are a manifestation of your consciousness. And I'm not merely talking about law of attraction here. I'm talking about the law of emergence. And that just like in a garden, the state of your garden has everything to do with the structures you build and the soil quality and how you tend to the soil and the seeds you plant and how you tend to those seeds and how you tend to the plants as they grow. Do you pull the weeds? Do you water it, weed it, feed it, give it light? Do you understand what those seeds need so you can cultivate the right conditions for them to emerge and thrive? That the quality in the life of your garden is about how you cultivate it, right? And if you don't like the soil, you bring in better soil. You bring in more nutrients. And that you ultimately have the capacity to have a green thumb, to develop a beautiful, thriving garden. Those individuals where your next door neighbor's roses, it's the same land basically, but her roses are just blossoming and thriving and her garden is so alive and so beautiful. And whether it's wild or it's trimmed, depending on preference, you're like, what's wrong with my garden? Right? And as if there's some special plot of land over there, and there's really not. It's because that individual knows how to cultivate the soil, the conditions, has a relationship with those seeds and those flowers and plants, and is cultivating a garden that they want. And I really want you to understand that the same is true for us. It looks like the world is happening to us. It looks like we are a victim of circumstances and conditions. And I'm not lacking for compassion. We all have our cross to bear. We all come into this world with karmic inclinations and challenges, and we are sharing a collective experience, fundamentally speaking. But ultimately, it's 100% in our power to determine what world we live in. And this is one of the keys to what Jesus was talking about when he said, "My kingdom is not of this world." And he was trying to speak of another realm, another world. He said, don't worry about tomorrow. Take no thought for your life and your body and tomorrow, and stop worrying about all the outer things, but instead seek first a connection to what he called the kingdom, what Buddha called nirvana, what Lao Tzu called the Tao, and you can call it Uncle George, it doesn't matter. But you want to call it forth, and you want to cultivate a relationship with your inner life. Your outer life cannot be any more or any less than the quality and the condition of your inner life. Now, it may not always manifest and blossom as quickly as you want or in quite the way you think it should. It may take longer. Certain seeds take longer to gestate and blossom. You plant some Chinese bamboo and you can water and weed and feed and manage that for years, somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 years, and it seems like nothing's happening. And if you don't go kill the person that sold you those seeds or just give up on the project altogether, in the 5th year, give or take, within a week or two, it blossoms into an 8 or 9 or 10 story tall bamboo. It was working all along, right? Nelson Mandela in prison for 23 or 26 years, he was cultivating his soul. He was reclaiming his agency and remembering that he was the master of his fate and the captain of his soul. And he cultivated an inner life of compassion, of strength, of soul stamina, of resilience, of forgiveness, of love, of power. He cultivated an inner life so beautiful and so rich and so powerful, no matter what the outer condition was, that when he was freed from prison, he became the president and he ended apartheid and he put on forgiveness tribunals. He did not carry tremendous hate and resentment and then foment more war and violence. He ended it, at least for the time and for his time. He chose to not live in the world out there, but to live in his own world and to create a beautiful world that he lived in. And you have that same power. You live in consciousness. It looks like you're moving around through physical objects and areas, space, but you're really moving around through your own consciousness. And all the stuff you're bumping into and the broken furniture and the broken baseboard and all the problems you're experiencing, you're actually first bumping into them in consciousness. And in consciousness is the only place you can repair them. In your consciousness is the only place you can win that argument with your spouse. Okay? Believe me, I'm telling you what I know here. In consciousness is the only place you can win the war. In consciousness is the only place you can get free, no matter what the seeming outer restraints are. And by the way, if you truly get free, you will either not care anymore if you're in a prison or if the laws don't seem to fit your lifestyle or don't seem to be fair, or you will transcend them. Because one with God or one with the truth and consciousness is a majority. There is no actual power in the world of appearances, in the world of effects. It's a projection. It's a three-dimensional holographic movie with good production value, but it's still just a movie. It's still just a picture. It has no substance, no reality, no real power. It is made of the substance of mind. And as you develop a beautiful world inside, as you endeavor and you commit, no matter what the outer world, no matter what the past, which is just a memory, no matter what the present conditions, which are just imagination, meaning they are the coagulation and the condensation of past thinking and feeling, that no matter what any of that looks like right now, I'm choosing to live in a beautiful world in the only place I can, in my mind and in my heart. And I'm going to endeavor daily to think the thoughts I would think if I was living in the world I wanted to, in the relationships I wanted to, in the work I wanted to. I'm going to bring the state of being that I would bring. I'm going to activate my inner power plant and generate the qualities of being and feeling and thinking that I would have if I was living in the beautiful world that I want. Rather than railing against the powers that be, the pseudo-powers, rather than blaming, shaming, attacking, and being a victim of circumstance, I'm going to build a world within me that is so pristine, so clean, so filled with love and joy and unity and harmony and abundance and power and creativity and inspiration and connection and communion and community and companionship, that I am just bursting with love and light. People will have to wear sunglasses around me because I'm shining so brightly. Not to try to get something or someone outside of me to change, but because the world that I've always lived in, the only world I'll ever live in, is the world within me and the world of my creation. Now, ultimately, there's a world within you that you didn't create. Again, nirvana, heaven, the Tao, the kingdom of God. That is the real world, an infinite, immortal, eternal state of spiritual, harmonious being. But getting there, and you know, whether it's meditation, prayer, surrender, breathing, affirmations, the point is, begin today. Declare and commit today that you are no longer going to live in the world out there. You're going to participate in it. You're going to show up for that relationship. You're going to show up for that job. You're going to bring what is emerging in you to your work, to your relationships, to your family, to your community. And you're going to vote. You're going to, do the things of a productive citizen. And you may go protest. You may, if that's an inspired action, not merely because you're trying to change the outer world, but because you're so filled with love and truth and justice, and that you want to bring love and justice more into the world because you're overflowing with it. That's a very different place. To he or she who is wrong in mind, they can do all the right actions and it'll still turn out wrong. We're seeing a lot of that happen right now. But to he or she who is right in mind and heart, they can do even some of the wrong actions and it will still turn out right. Because we don't get what we want, we don't get what we merely do, we get who we are in consciousness. And again, there's no blaming the victim here. It's simply a principle that nothing can come into our life uninvited, whether consciously or unconsciously. Nothing can come into our life that isn't an activity of our consciousness. Because life doesn't happen to us, it happens through and as us. Life is emergent. It's emerging. You're a unique, individualized center of intelligence, of life, of consciousness, of God, if you will. And you are the way the whole of life is uniquely unfolding. But it's unfolding according to your perception. There's perfection, which is the infinite good. There's our perception of it. And then there's our projection of it. And then finally, there's protection of it, meaning we form a selfhood around it, an identity, an ego, right? And we create a picture and we put a frame around it and call that reality. But it's not reality. It's a picture of reality and often a distorted one. And then we get lost in the pictures. We're running around mad through a museum of photos and images and yelling and screaming at pictures and attacking pictures and not realizing we're not in life at all. We're in a simulation of the mind. We're in a storyline. We're asleep. And we have to leave the museum of our mind, step out in the bright day of light and make a stand and make a commitment. I am no longer going to be a victim of anyone or anything, including my own thinking and my own past memory, and including my present conditions. No matter what I've been through, no matter what I'm facing, I'm going to reclaim my agency, my divine sovereignty, and I'm going to absolutely begin to be the gardener of my own consciousness. And I'm going to choose what seeds I plant, and I'm going to plant the seeds I want to grow. I'm going to think the thoughts I want to become my experience. I'm going to speak the words knowing that, imagining that if those words were to become my experience, that's the experience I want. I'm going to bring a state of being, knowing that that's the person I want to be, rather than I'm just a ball of reaction. You understand what I'm saying? Now, again, this is not easy, right? That's why Jesus said, straight is the gate and narrow is the path, something like that, to life. And few there be that walk it. Because it takes focus, it takes commitment, it takes courage, it takes consistency, right? Our conditions don't determine our destiny. Our character does. And our character is made of our habits. Mental, emotional, the habits of what we think, feel, be, and do. Build the program of our character. That determines the world we live in. That determines our destiny. And the habits we build are based on what we choose, or sometimes don't choose, but what we think about, feel, be, and do on a consistent basis. And what we think, feel, be, and do is based on what our vision is and what our values are. And we've adopted and been hypnotized and conditioned to take on a lot of visions and values that aren't really intrinsically ours, right? So we have to, again, reclaim our agency, reclaim our sovereignty, reevaluate what we're valuing. Reevaluate what is the vision we have for our life. Do we have a vision? Are we living as a vision holder or a problem solver? Most people have bigger flat screen TVs than they do a vision for their life. Most people know more about their iPhone than they do about their own mind and heart and what they truly want and what they're made of and made for. Is that there's a definition for that. It's called insanity, right? And that's what this egoic collective ego has conditioned us to, because that's how you control people. That's how you prevent real change. That's how you feel in power, is by conditioning people to believe they don't have power, conditioning people to believe they don't have agency, conditioning people to be consumers instead of creators, problem solvers instead of vision holders, making them believe that there's something outside of them that has to change for them to be free and fulfilled and all that they're meant to be. It's all a lie. Now, no person is responsible for that lie. That lie was here before you got here. It was even here before Donald Trump got here or whoever's the bad guy you want to focus on. And we have to inoculate ourselves from these viruses. And we have to reclaim our power. We have to stop living in the world and stop trying to save the world. Instead, serve the world within you that's emerging. Don't save the world, serve what's emerging. More truth, more love, more joy, more peace, more abundance. What is the life you want to live? What is the world you want to live in? If you were living in that world, living in those relationships, doing that kind of work, having that kind of body and wealth and whatever it is, describe the world you want to live in. The world of your personal life, your professional life, and the world beyond. Describe it. And then begin to ask, if I was living in that world, how would I think on a daily basis? How would I feel? Who would I be? What would I do? And begin to actually create a practice to begin to think, create affirmations, to begin to be, to begin to bring that quality, to begin to feel, visualize, affirm, whatever you have to do to get into that feeling state. I mean, I go into a lot more depth in some of my programs, but I'm just giving you the general here. And what you would do, because through action, you activate feeling states. Begin to describe, if I was living in the world of my dreams, who would I be, how would I feel, how would I think, and what would I do? And make a practice and become a disciple of that, a devotee of that, and begin to practice building a beautiful world within you. Can you imagine if all of us just began to focus more on our circle of influence instead of our circle of concern, like the news and what's going on out there, and built a beautiful world inside of us? As Gandhi said, be the change you want to see. This is the principle. This is the word. This is the truth. We need to build a beautiful world within us. If there's whatever the situation is that's going on, whatever it's making come out of you, whether it's fear, anger, worry, doubt, or inspiration or happiness, it's important to know that the condition doesn't cause that to come out of you. If you squeeze an orange, what comes out of an orange? Orange juice. If I squeeze it, orange juice. If anybody squeezes it, if a truck runs over it, if it falls off a building, what comes out of it? Orange juice. What comes out of it is only what's in it. So when life squeezes you, what comes out of you? Is it power, passion, agency, sovereignty, praise, compassion, love, forgiveness, hope, inspiration, creativity, visionary ideas, resolve, resilience, stamina? When life squeezes you, what comes out of you? There's no judgment, but begin to be aware, because whatever's coming out of you is because that's what's in you. So we have to activate what we want. And I'm telling you what I know, that if you build a beautiful world within you, if you build a deeper connection to your divine source, and you begin to affirm the truth no matter what the appearance, you begin to meditate and surrender and say, more than I want to fix, change, heal, control, manipulate anyone or anything, I want to know the truth that makes me free. I want to be an instrument of love and God and truth. I want to be a transparency of ultimate reality. Use me, life. Use me, love. Use me, truth. Make me a worthy instrument for more light. You will become a candidate. You will create the conditions for breakthroughs and insights and revelations and transformations, but you have to be interested in that. You don't get merely what you want, you get what you're interested in. You get what you're focused on and what you're committed to. Are you committed to living in a world of peace and love and joy and power and prosperity and harmony and wholeness, unity and compassion? Are you committed to that? Well, then you have to live in that world. You can't look at the government or your neighbor or your spouse or your children or your parents or the police or anybody and make them responsible for the world you live in. You have to live in that world. And if you do that, and that's not my message, that's the message of all the greatest leaders and masters, Gandhi, King, Mandela, Jesus, Buddha, Lao Tzu, Kuan Yin, you have to live in that world. And guess what? No matter what is the crazy looking world out there, all the power to live in the world you want, you've still got. Not one iota of your power has been taken away. I don't care what color your skin is, what gender, what sexual preference, what side of the tracks you're born on, what your current or past conditions are. Not one bit of your power has been taken. I know it's hard, and for some individuals, much harder. I've gone through a very terrible tragedy this year with the death of my beautiful son. But because of this work and this continued work, I still get to live in a beautiful world. I get to have a more beautiful relationship with my son, not less of one. I get to have a more beautiful relationship with love, not less of one. It's hard. It takes real work, a real labor of love. It takes a commitment that I'm going to live in oneness with love, God, truth. I'm going to cultivate a world of love and abundance and creativity and inspiration no matter what. Ain't nobody going to get in my way of living in the kingdom of God, of living in heaven, of living in wholeness, of living in harmony. Not even me. I'm not even going to get in my way. Not even my old thoughts. Nothing. That doesn't mean I don't get knocked down. That doesn't mean I don't want to die sometimes. That doesn't mean I'm angry. That doesn't mean I don't struggle. But it means I pick myself back up. I brush myself off. I take a breath. I center. I pray. I reaffirm. I reconnect. And I open myself humbly and say, more than I want to fix this, change this, heal this, manipulate this, I want to know the truth. I want to see the truth. I want to be an instrument of love. Open my heart, open my eyes. Use me, life. Use me, love. And then I sit and I get back to my work. This is what you're capable of. There is no individual throughout all of history that has any more capability than you. It's just they put more focus on it. They had more interest in it. They committed to it. No, just because you work 9 to 5 and are a single parent raising 3 kids, that doesn't mean you don't have less capacity, that you have less capacity. There's been plenty of people with much worse situations than you that claimed their agency and sovereignty and lived in a beautiful world and set themselves free and then became a light in the world as a result. So there is no justification for living in an ugly, horrible world. There's none. Again, it's hard. Life experience is difficult. Actualizing our potential is difficult. Life isn't hard. Life is free. But embodying it, awakening to it, becoming a clear enough, strong enough instrument of it, that takes something. But what's the alternative? Be just buffeted about by all of the other people's beliefs and perceptions and viruses and pressures, and just be like a leaf in the wind, just smacked all around and crumbled and thrown into a trash heap and burned up? I mean, what's the alternative? And some days you have to literally pick yourself up. Some days I've had to do affirmations while I'm screaming. just to get me. It's an emotionally backed affirmation, right? When I really want to say is, God damn it, why is this happening? Instead, I'll be like, God damn it, life is so good. I can't even believe how amazing my life is. And eventually it shifts. And sometimes I need to just sit in the fire, not indulge in it, but just be with it. Just witness it. Have a little grace, a little space for grace. Let the feelings be transmuted so I don't get sucked into them. And some days I need to reach out for help. And that's why we're not supposed to hold it all together. We're supposed to hold it all together, as my good friend Sierra says. That we really can do this. We're done with excuses. And the challenges we're experiencing in the world right now are not happening to us. They really are happening for us. I know some of them are terrible. Believe me, for me to say that means I have to be able to look at the death of my son and say the same thing. It didn't happen to me. And it didn't even just happen to him. That there's an opportunity here for freedom and deeper love and deeper peace. And I've touched it. And you can too. Whatever you're going through or growing through. Business challenges, physical challenges, I've had them all. And you can still live a wonderful, beautiful life. You can still live in a beautiful, inspiring, creative, abundant world. It's all up to you. And I hope you enjoy this, and I hope you're feeling moved by this, but please post here, what are you going to do about it? What action are you going to take? What's one insight you can take away from this? And one action you can take now. Right now. Once you stop listening to this, watching this, sit and start writing down your vision that you want to live into. If you build it, they will come. You got to build the world you want. And I don't mean merely out there. I mean fundamentally the world within you. Write down the world you want to live in. And then write down, if I was living in that, who would I be? How would I feel? What would I think? How would I act? How would I show up? How would I treat myself and others? And begin to map out the beginnings of a practice. And start simple. Maybe you just start every day by asking, if I lived in a beautiful world, how would I show up in my life today? If I loved myself, if I lived in a beautiful world, I would love myself and I would feel loved. Okay, if I loved myself, how would I treat myself today? How would I show up today? My version of a beautiful world is where everybody respects and appreciates each other, and I'm deeply in love, and I'm fully alive and creative and successful. Okay, ask yourself today, if I was totally alive and totally in love and totally inspired, what would I create today? How would I treat myself? How would I show up to work, to my marriage, to my children? Just begin to ask those questions, the answers of which will begin to give you the life you want, will begin to generate the feelings and the thoughts you want. And stay tuned, because I'm going to be launching a free 7-day Changemaker Challenge coming up. I don't have the link for you yet, but pay attention, stay tuned. Maybe get on my list if you're not already on it. You can go to DerekRydall.com. Brand new website is up, and you can get a bunch of free trainings there to support you, including the VVR meditation, which will absolutely help you live in a more beautiful world. Just go there under the free trainings, I believe it is. And that's DerekRydall.com. Go into the free trainings. There's a bunch of free trainings there for you. And then I'll let you know as soon as the free Changemaker Challenge comes out. It's going to be 7 days of just deep dive, reclaiming our power, our vision, our mission, our purpose. It's going to be exciting stuff. So I hope this is supporting you. Share this with a friend. Share this with somebody who's caught up in the world right now and you want to support them in living in a beautiful world. And maybe even get together with somebody. Get an accountability partner and say, hey, let's do this together. Let's build a beautiful world within ourselves together. And where two or more are gathered together in agreement, there I am in the midst of them. There the oversoul is activated, the Christ, the Buddha, the Atman, the higher pattern of possibility begins to emerge. You break your contract with the world, with the matrix, and you create a new attractor pattern, a new morphic field that begins to lift your life and your lives higher and higher, regardless of what's going on in the world. And then as you are lifted up, you begin to draw all others unto that same frequency. It begins with one, and then it begins with two and three. Now you have a congregation. Now you have a sacred trinity, and you can begin to lift yourselves up. I'm telling you, it's powerful stuff. You must decide to stop living in the world out there and live in a beautiful world in here. Until next time, remember to live authentically, love unconditionally, and follow your destiny. Much love.